That's Matt. Sorry, that's JoJo Mason and Chemical on the Parkland's Best, 7:30 CKDM. It is 6:45, and I have Matt Hamel, the News Now Information Center, in studio with me.
Yes, you do. Did you almost say that song was by me?
It almost slipped out. Yes, it did.
I don't think I'm quite that talented.
So thanks for joining us in studio, Matt. I understand you have some information with the new COVID-19 numbers.
You bet, Tamara. Today was, without a doubt, the most substantial COVID-19 news day for Manitoba. So let's unpack that a bit, and we'll walk through some of the major stories. I even had a chance to speak with Superintendent with the Mountain View School Division, Dan Ward, about what this news from today. Orange restrictions going back into effect for Prairie Mountain Health and the rest of the province, really. So we'll touch on that in just a moment. Let's start off with the big case number today that caught a lot of people's attention. 480 new cases of COVID-19. I believe the previous daily high was 193. So this smashing that record. But Dr. Brent Rusin did explain that this is kind of a result of a backlog. I mean, granted, there was, I think, like 200 and something cases on its own, but this 480 number is the result of a bit of a backlog piling up from the week and all kind of getting dumped today. So take that astronomical 480 with that in mind, right? And then we also heard there's a outbreak declared at the Grandview Personal Care Home. It's been moved to red on the pandemic response system, the specific location of the care home, that is. And health officials they've explained that even a single case can be referred to as an outbreak. So that could be the situation there, but not really more details have been released. The province really, beyond just identifying that there's been an outbreak, no real follow-up information, but we'll look to see if any more details come out around that.
And I'm assuming because it's a personal care home, that must be why they're considering it an outbreak, just because it's a closed system, right? Because
of the vulnerability of the establishment and the seriousness of the COVID-19 virus, as I believe what Dr. Rusin has explained, why they use the terminology outbreak. I believe I asked him that directly at one of the conferences. Okay. Also today, we learned that Winnipeg is going to red. As of Monday, Winnipeg going to red on the pandemic response system, because as we know, that's where the biggest issues are with COVID-19 in Manitoba. So lots of restrictions. You're seeing restaurants going to just takeout only. So kind of those early pandemic measures we saw take into effect across Manitoba. Winnipeg kind of going back to that for a minimum of 2 weeks and affecting us here locally. The rest of the province, every other health region on Monday will be in orange, meaning that we'll have some targeted restrictions coming to the region. So we'll be seeing gathering sizes limited to 5 in Prairie Mountain Health. That's in addition to, if you have 4 people in your household, you can have another 5 people over. It's kind of whoever lives in your house plus 5 is the way they're explaining it.
And of course, we're still going to be using the same social distancing measures, and we can wear masks. Like, there's always, the hand washing, the same thing that we've been trying to do all along. And I guess I'm assuming that we're going to be wearing masks back kind of everywhere like we were last time.
The province hasn't. So this isn't the same orange as it was earlier in the summer. You have to understand that there's a large list. Anytime a region of the province is moved into orange or yellow, there's a long list of possible measures, and the province kind of picks and chooses which measures to employ. So we have a list up at 730ckdm.com of all these orange level measures going into effect as of Monday. It's not necessarily the same as what we had earlier in the summer, if you remember, when Prairie Mountain Health had those high cases. So it's really not clear at this time if all those are also included, but we do have a list of the definitive measures that the province released today for Prairie Mountain Health. One of those measures, Tamara, has to do with schools. And I think a lot of people in our region wondering, well, what's going to be the impact to schools on Monday? What the province told us is that there will be, as far as measures introduced to schools on Monday, blended learning for grades 9 to 12, voluntary blended learning for kindergarten to grade 8, and ensuring as much physical distancing as possible. So we asked Mountain View School Division Dan Ward, what does this mean for the schools in the division? Well, he said, as for Monday, schools will remain open, and there will be some additional measures implemented throughout the week. And I guess they've been kind of preparing for this, right? Didn't necessarily catch the division off guard. They were kind of contingency planning for this kind of situation, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I guess I must be the only one here, I think, at CKDM that has school-age children, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that I have one in grade 12, one daughter in grade 12, and that's going to be impacted, and another daughter in grade 7 in Mackenzie Middle School. And what's really interesting is they are adhering very strictly from the very beginning of opening school. Like she got off the bus, I think, one day without her mask. And as soon as she looked at her teacher, she walked up and she realized she didn't have it on. And I think she wore a scarf when she got on the bus, so she didn't, nobody had really noticed. They gave her a mask right away. Like, they have everything really in place. And she's had a mask every other day. She said you're not allowed to speak with anyone in class without one. Like, she said you're not allowed to talk at lunch hour. If you have your mask off, you're not allowed to talk. Like, they are really following the guidelines.
Yeah, and absolutely. So some of those other measures going into effect, right, Tamara, for Orange, for schools, field trips will have to be postponed or canceled. Wind instruments in the band, that's going to have to put a X-nay on that for the time being, because we know airborne transmission, right? Kind of an interesting thing there. Some extracurriculars will have to be modified to a certain extent. But you mentioned your daughter in high school. Well, let's talk high schools in the Mountain View School Division. The DRCSS, the social distancing blended learning approach is already in place. But speaking with Dan Ward, we have this full interview with Dan Ward up on the CKDM website if anybody wants to get more information. He had mentioned that the other 5 high schools in MVSD are certainly going to have to look at what we can do in terms of socially distancing there. And if they find that there's just simply too many challenges, they might have to start changing things up, introducing a blended learning approach for grades 9 through 12. But like Mr. Ward said, it's going to be a matter of rolling these out. It's not everything is going to launch on Monday. They'll have to kind of roll this out over the week, and then it'll be maybe a bit of a trial process of figuring out what needs to be done to fully mesh with this new orange restrictions.
Yeah, and I could see that. I mean, I know that my daughter, who is in grade 12, she only goes to school every second day. So she's only in every second day for school. She's got her schedule, and she's got a part-time job every other day, and she's doing her homework, and she has her she doesn't struggle in school, so it hasn't really been much of an issue. But I know it's interesting coming into Halloween now. I have a teenage daughter that's just asked me if she could go to a party on the weekend. And so I think that's really fascinating. I basically had just told her no. Now, unfortunately, she's in grade 12. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, you can't go because we can't, how am we going to, right?
We all love a Halloween party, but I believe the message from public health officials is that kind of increasing your contacts, that sort of gathering.
Big risk.
I believe, these measures we're talking about, Tamara, go into effect on Monday, but the message from public health officials is you don't have to wait till Monday to start maybe taking those extra precautions. Again, these are the guidelines laid out by the province. Even with Halloween, you have a difference of opinion, right? Some people would like to go trick-or-treating. Other folks don't feel comfortable and don't think this is the year. I guess that's a judgment call that folks have to make for themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I know my grade 7 daughter, she is going trick-or-treating tomorrow, but she will have her mask and, she's going to hold out her bag. And hopefully people are going to be using tongs and taking these recommendations seriously, at the door, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of dark doorways and lights off too. It's not going to be a regular Halloween year for sure.
Tamara, speaking of those guidelines, we have them posted up at 730ckdm.com. So the latest Halloween guidelines, and folks can go there to check that out. That's about all I have. We can get back to the music now. I just wanted to unpack what's been a incredible